June 3rd HARB meeting for Radnor Township. First order of business is to rise and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. We have 3 projects tonight. The first one is a return visit. It's HARB 2015-05, 120 and 124 Bloomingdale Avenue. I'll just read exactly what the submission says. This project has been revised from the prior submission to consist of 5 dwelling units, 2 singles, and 1 3-unit building on the property at 124 Bloomingdale Avenue. And a non-conforming commercial building will revert back to a single-family detached dwelling at 120 Bloomingdale Avenue. Application was continued from the May 6th, 2015 meeting. I think, just some background, I think the single-family commercial conversion is consistent throughout all of your proposals, right? It's always going back to, the commercial's going back to single-family in all cases. So we're really just talking about the other building that's being removed in that site.
Right. I'm George Brosman. I'm representing the applicant. What we believe we're here for. We were here many times, but we got direction to go back with the singles in the front. We did that. We had a very productive meeting last time. I believe we had resolved all issues, but we were continued and we were asked to come back to look to see, if you remember, the roofs before were kind of more squared off, and we were sent back just for that one issue. Could we look at softening that? And we have in fact done that. You can see now that these roof lines angle back in. And they worked with the architect and they did that. So that was the only issue we were back for. And we wanted to say that when we were here last time, we weren't sure if we could do it. Our client consulted with their architect. They were able to do that, and they wanted me to convey to you that they think it was a good idea on your part, and they actually like this better than what they had before, and they do think it achieved the objective of that. And even though it's not within your purview, I'll also mention that they have taken steps to lower the grade of the site, which we'll be talking about with the Planning Commission and Land Development, so that effectively also reduces the overall height by a little bit. So with that, when we can go over these, but those were in your package. We were going to be asking for your recommendation of approval of the certificate of appropriateness with those changes.
Now, I wasn't here last time, but did you guys look at all of the buildings or just the front street facing? Is that?
We looked at all
All
of
of
them.
them? Okay.
Yeah, so my question to you was, are these the 2 street-facing
Yes.
pictures? Can you go over kind of a little bit more in detail?
I'll probably have
Just
Bo
the
do that.
images?
Yeah, this was, by the way, this was the one that we had before. And you can see how, and now they're angled in. I'm not an architect, I'm an attorney, so I'll have Bo, he's not an architect either, but he's closer to being one than I am.
Good evening. Yes, these are the 2 singles that are facing Bloomingdale, which from the very start of this project, we had gotten the direction from both the supervisors and then you at the multiple meetings that you'd like to have singles facing Bloomingdale, and we have now revised them after our last meeting to soften them, decrease their height, and create curvature to the roof, which was specifically what you asked us to go back and do. And we agree with you. We think it actually looks very good.
Are these in position as they would be seen from the street right now? The left one is on the left and the right one, or?
Yes, I can show you a site plan.
Okay.
So this will be the site plan. And as they were presented, lot number one would be this facade. And as you've said all along, you'd like them to look similar, but not the same. So we have some different nuances to lot number one, as well as lot number two.
So in both cases, they have front porches. You actually do have a front door on the front of the building facing Bloomingdale.
Yes, we do. One of the other items we
And I-
covered
and I'm probably
at the last meeting.
I'm probably talking backwards because that's probably already been discussed.
Yeah.
Porch,
Yeah.
and also the garages were flipped to be in the back, so the front would really be the front.
Yeah, and that we covered that at the last meeting, as per your request.
Okay. All right, so if we can, oh, go ahead.
These look great to me. It looks like you did what we asked. I'm interested in the back lots. What do they look like? Or what will the whole thing look like?
They will look the same.
Okay.
They will have the same facades.
They're just connected up, though.
Correct, they just are attached.
I mean, I think in the very beginning, you had some version of this as a site plan, which we said, that's what we want to see, singles on the street, and whatever you do in the back, have some relationship with it, and don't get into the massing that's huge. You went a couple of different ways, and now you're back to this plan, which I think is kind of where everybody wanted to be. I know it was difficult for you, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
And I think from what I've seen on the elevational work, the curvatures and the softening has been a plus and a positive. I think, some comments were made that to copy things directly for new construction is you sort of don't want to do that. You want to differentiate yourself somewhat, but you do have elements from the surrounding buildings that are there. You've rescaled them a little bit. Obviously, bracketing and things like that will not have all the detailing that the old ones would have, but you have bracketing. So some of those things are translatable, but they are not exact replicas, which I think is a good thing. Can we put those elevations up one more time? And I think you have stone, shingle, siding, and
And some brick.
they stole it from me again. Do we have an overall height in,
Yes, they will be 30 feet tall, and that was one of they had asked if we could lower them. We can build to 40, but we worked with the architect and we can build them at 30.
okay. Yeah, I think, if you refer to the design guidelines, I think you've done what we've asked you to do. It's that 178.7 or -7 would be the B, relationship of building to historic, well, no, I'm sorry, C, character defining development patterns. You've got the footprints that we're looking at, street-facing homes, varying scales. Front setbacks are the same. So I think in terms of what, if you go right out of our guidelines, I think you've succeeded in doing the things we've asked you to do. You guys agree?
And I was going to add that it's hard to sometimes define the character, the quality we're talking about, and I think you did a really good job we struggled by using the word soften the lines and almost de-emphasizing the roof, and I think you really pulled that together and was a better proportion overall. I think maybe that's what we should have said, but it worked.
Yeah, thank you, and I agree with you.
Is there any public comment on this project at this time? Anybody want to say a few words?
Joseph Ryan, 205 West Wayne Avenue. I'm more concerned with the properties in the back, and we've had some discussions and such like that. And so the 30 feet rule here, I understand, is a median across the roof line? So the total height of the building is going to be higher than 30 feet, but not by much, correct?
That's correct.
So, and I don't know if this is even the proper authority for the ones in the back, which I'm more concerned about because that's what I'm going to be looking at. You know, does the Harb have anything to do with heights in the back of that, or is that a non-issue for you guys?
It's
Yeah, so,
a,
okay, so that's,
30 goes to there. It's the halfway.
so that's the back way house? So,
No,
yeah.
that's the front. But
So
that's
just
the
one of my
measurement.
concerns, if I'm looking at this house from the street, is it going to be loomed over from the back by the townhouses?
I was thinking about that when we walked grounds today.
Okay,
turn your mic on.
I'm just, you know, and we've had fine discussions about it, but I'm just curious because they are going to be higher. They're not going to be matching this, so it's just, and once again, it may not be this domain
Well,
or whatever.
we talk about scale and massing. Zoning is going to mandate the regulations on the
So
overall.
from zoning and massing, if you're at the street and you're looking at, are you going to be able to see the townhouses behind towering over?
I think your line of sight isn't going to do that.
Yeah, that's,
They're the same height.
We do have.
Hey, Bo.
Side elevation.
Perfect,
For our
yeah.
book, so we can talk about that after.
I just,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
They're the same height.
Hi, Baron Gemmer. My wife and I own the property to this side of this house. First, I want to commend the applicant for the efforts they've made in both the design, because I think that is more in keeping, as well as some of the efforts that we're currently working on trying to get to an agreement with the changes in grade as well as with the elevations. We're not 100% here yet, so I can't throw my full support behind it, but obviously we very much appreciate the efforts. Just to some of the questions that were asked with the massing and the height, I presented a sheet last time that kind of showed the bigger differences. Our house over here, again, is about 34 feet, 4 inches wide. These would be just under 40, maybe 39-ish, so they're a little wider. Just in representation here, our house to the flat roof, which is what we have on our one, is just a shade over 30. Now, as I think George mentioned, or maybe Bo pointed out, this is where the 30 feet is here, and I believe this is an additional 8 feet up there. So this portion will be 38 feet. Now, granted, it's toward the middle, and we have some concerns. We're trying to work with them on that. So things have gotten better. We're still trying to tweak things. One thing I would ask is that if you would be able to grant approval of swapping these, because there's any differences with porches and second floor porches on one versus the other, and if you didn't have any issue with what was at Lot 1 versus Lot 2, assuming they were flipped appropriately, we would appreciate the approval to include that if you were so deemed to do so. But as I mentioned before, we're still working out an agreement with the applicant in terms of this and the plantings and the grading for everything. So I just saw some of these plans about less than a half hour ago. So we're trying, but we're not there yet totally.
Well, one of the things with a mansard roof, your line of sight is that you really never see that top piece. So that's there mainly just for drainage. If you were to step way back, you'd see it. But on a street level, you barely would see that. It's kind of almost in the same line of sight. So I think that as long as that's not done in such a high fashion, which it doesn't look like it is.
Well, I'm just used to, again, our mansard, if it probably goes more than 5 or 6 inches toward the middle to drain off, and obviously 8 feet is a bigger
Right. I don't know if that's 8 or not.
I did, we measured, because that's, actually, it's probably, I guess, if this is it's probably maybe like 6 to 7, I would guess, I'd have to measure it again, but that's.
6 over 40.
Yeah.
6 over 20 feet. I understand your concern, yeah. And, I think ultimately when you get into planning and you're grading, and if you can keep things where, I think Joe's comment was that, if the site's looming back like this, and your townhouses are in the back, and then all of a sudden they're starting to loom above the rest of everything, we don't want to see that. But the natural site doesn't do that. It's pretty flat on the plateau.
Yeah, the more concern is the looming to the houses that are to the side, as well as then Joe, who spoke,
Right.
and Ed's back there, looming that way to the houses immediately to the left, as well as obviously the massing of the streetscape itself.
Well, the massing from, as far as these go in height, from a HARB standpoint, the third floor is within the roof line. And that's kind of what we have to look at. And, the roof line takes a certain scale to the rest of the building, and everything kind of goes down and gets fatter as you go down, sort of. And that's what we're looking at, and a footprint that has, some ins and outs that match some of the other things in the neighborhood. There's kind of both of these, and all of them have sort of a front bay that protrudes further forward. And then there's a piece that comes back, and then there's a front porch that's first, 1 story, but then there's a second floor on another one. I mean, there's some variations that go on there. So I think they're consistent with, what's in the neighborhood. And that's, this is the original street, where the original street connection we're looking for, not the other subsequent developments that have gone on there that are not in the same, they don't have the same single family footprint that we're looking for. Development needs to happen, but we want to try to maintain that streetscape as long as we can, and that's kind of our job. So.
And I understand all that. Part of, you mentioned with the height too, part of what we're working with the applicant, because there is a trade-off. A lot of these, they need some relief from zoning for steep slopes and rear yard setbacks, so that's kind of the trade-off why they wouldn't necessarily be going to the limits of the height, whether it be limited by you as HARB in terms of massing or by the zoning code. So that's why that's part of what we're trying to work out, is that trade-off. If some things are allowed, some things aren't, so where's the happy medium between those? And that's what we're trying to do. And again, let me ask you, if you do deem to recommend approval for these, if you could include the possibility of them being flipped. Yeah, or maybe I'll entertain, and if there's any comments on that now before I sit down.
I don't know that that's something we can really do. I think you like to see porches not next to each other, so you have a privacy issue. You want to have them on opposite ends of the. I mean, what's your issue with?
Well, this one has the one that would be closest to our property has the second floor porch also.
Right.
And that, in terms of privacy and/or noise, that if the one that only has the first floor porch would be more amenable to be closer to us.
I'm not sure that falls under our. I know you can comment on that.
I don't know that falls under something that we can make the
Oh, I'm not saying. I'm just
applicant do.
saying that you could approve it either way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That,
but I
that,
would be
I'm sorry.
fine.
That's my point.
I'm sorry.
That you
I
give
would be fine
approval
with
that it
approving
doesn't
either
matter
way.
if they're flipped or not.
Right.
That's all I was asking. So that you give approval whether they're built this way or built that way, with the appropriate mirroring. That's all I'm asking.
I think we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience, or?
I own the property. My name is Matt Lombardi. I own the property at 200 West Wayne Ave, which is right across the street, I think, from the previous gentleman who was up here speaking. I just want to say I think it looks beautiful. I'm happy that that's coming to the neighborhood. It fits in with all the mansard roofs on the street. And as a builder, I don't think you're going to be able to see almost any of that roof because it's such a low pitch. That's like a, 3 or 4 pitch, and by the time you're on the sidewalk and you look up, you're not going to see anything above that. So I think it's beautiful, and I'm for it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, what would the board like to recommend?
I would like to recommend our certificate for approval for the project we're just discussing, which I'm forgetting the numbers of, 120 and 124 Bloomingdale. Someone second?
Yeah, I think you want to say also that we want to be able to, we don't have any,
Right, sorry.
how do you want to say that?
I guess in addition, looking at the plans for you, is it part, Unit 1 and Unit 2? We would be happy with either one of those being located in either spot. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
The governing force here is a single family facing the streets. So I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 4-0. Finally.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I know you have more to do in other boards, but having our approval, I think, helps in some way
Yes,
towards
the
that. I mean,
Supervisors made that very clear.
Okay.
We want to talk to them. Thank you.
all right, thanks again. All right. Next project on the list is HARB 2015-10, 200.5 West Wayne Avenue, front and rear porches. Introduce yourself, and, oh, I think you have, in your plan set, just as a comment, on the left side of each page is a plan. Can you fold that under, just so you're showing elevations and the site plan? When you're flipping through? That's great. Thank you.
They told me not to talk about the rear porch because it doesn't, is that true? Because it's not facing the street?
You can talk about all of it, but just make sure you use the mic. Do you want a handheld? Does that help? You're good. This one.
Okay, so again, my name is Matt Lombardi, and I own the property at 200.5 West Wayne, which we're going to talk about now, as well as, or 200.5, which is right next door to 200 West Wayne.
Is this really 200 or 200.5?
This one is 200.5, the little brick house.
Okay, and that's the one?
That's the one we're talking about.
Okay, because your application says 200.
Did I write that, or someone in the township, maybe?
It was on your application, but
Yeah,
actually, maybe it says 200
it was my
and a
mistake.
half, and I'm thinking it says South Wayne.
Oh, okay.
You're all right, I was wrong. I just can't see.
Okay, so all I'm looking to do to this house is, as you can see now, it's just a small brick facade with a small pent roof that comes out over where there's no front door. So there's just the like the bay window and a window next to it. And I'd like to add a front porch. In the top picture. That'll be like a raised seam aluminum roof. 12 by 12 posts, there's 4 of them, and we want to add a front door right there and have a couple bluestone, flagstone style walkway going to it. And then what we wanted to do in the rear was something similar. It'll be more of a hip style roof with 4 columns, balcony, and we're going to put French doors off of a kitchen to the back. The property slopes kind of dramatically in the back, and because of it, the first floor becomes the second floor in the back. So I think by having there's really no way to get to the backyard besides going to the basement and then walking out. So I think it's kind of nice to have some access to your backyard and the views by extending a porch back there. That's pretty much all I'm looking to do. I think it dramatically improves the facade from the front, because right now that it's kind of an unattractive facade, and I think by adding a front door and putting a cute porch kind of makes it fit into the whole Wayne neighborhood.
Is this a usable porch in depth?
Yeah. It's, I think it's 8 feet deep.
Okay.
It's 28 feet wide, which is basically the whole front of the house, and 8 feet deep. And it's only about 1 step up off the ground.
Did it include the information you gave us, include the date of this home was 30s, did you say?
I thought it was 1954.
50.
I think so.
Yeah, the
So
other, the
it's-
other one is, I think.
Okay, because it's not in a period of significance. Which, you know,
But
so
I guess it's in the area of significance.
it's in the area,
yeah.
so it's kind of nice what you're doing to, continue the style or continue the aura of the neighborhood, but it's a simple house and you're adding something simple, so
A
that's
little
all
bit of
good.
curb appeal, yeah.
Yeah,
And the reason I'm here is because I kind of want to do this at the same time that we do the 5-unit mansard style Victorian on the corner. And I figure we'll kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and make the whole corner look better right away. So,
that's good.
I mean, this is one of those oddball houses that doesn't have any, it doesn't have any attributes that most of the other houses in South Wayne, or even in this area, most of them do have porches of some sort. And, bringing that presence to the streetscape is definitely part of the fabric of South Wayne. South and North Wayne are both very strongly held as porch communities. So I think that's going to be
okay.
a huge plus. And, certainly, putting the, kind of the standing seam on the, towards the street face is another wonderful gesture of just good materials.
I was hoping you guys would like that.
And, the columns are nice and beefy, and, it's not, you're not trying to match anything that's anywhere, so I think they're going to be appropriate as well. And as far as the back goes, you can't see any of that, but I think it's going to improve the property tremendously.
Thank you.
I think this was a house that was going to get torn down a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, I think the previous builder was going to possibly knock down the corner and this and try to do like a new townhouse development.
Right.
So we just bought it a couple months ago, and we're hoping to kind of do the whole corner soon.
Okay, so I'll talk to you about the other one. But
Okay.
this one, I think, is only pluses here.
Okay.
I think it's just got a side door now.
Yeah, there's just a side door to enter, which is a little
So-
tight with the
so
driveway.
bringing that, I mean, you're keeping that one, I think, but bringing it to, the front door, to the front of the house is also another element that we recommend as
Okay.
well. So I think this is pretty simple. It's, all the materials are there. It's a different era house, but you're bringing some pieces of the neighborhood to it and enhancing its street value to the rest of the neighborhood. I think that's a wonderful plus.
Thank you.
Anybody else? And again, that 178-7 design guidelines, I think you got it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So anyhow, I'm going to make a motion to approve as presented. Yeah, is there any comments from the audience on this one? Okay. All right. I'd make a motion to approve as presented tonight.
I second?
All in favor? All right, 4-0. Okay.
Okay, thank you, guys.
And you know the process after this? You're familiar with everything else you have to do and don't have to do? Or?
Yeah, I already handed in all the grading permits, and they've accepted everything, so.
Okay,
I
good.
think we should, normal process. Thank you.
And just as an aside, the other property is going to stay as it is in terms of,
Yeah, we're going to renovate.
Good.
Do a pretty drastic renovation to that, too.
okay, so we'll see you for that one maybe? Or are you going to do,
That one was previously approved, though, so we're just trying to kind of transfer the permits.
Okay.
Do them all in our name, the town doesn't want us to transfer them, but the next couple months we'll get started on everything.
excellent.
Okay.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe, do you need? Oh, okay. Okay, we have one more project tonight. It's HARP 2015-11, 220 Lansdowne Avenue, renovation and addition to 1932 colonial house. New windows, siding, roof, add dormer to front of house, add second floor to single-story side of house, put a mudroom and attached garage off the back.
Correct.
Introduce yourself, and you don't have any plans,
Underneath
house plans?
current house plans?
I mean, what we don't want to have, if possible, is just, I'd like to see a site plan
Okay.
to show what's new and existing, and then also then just go to elevations.
Sure.
And avoid
Interior
showing
stuff.
interior
Sure.
stuff. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So, my name is Jim Bradley. I'm the homeowner. I'm also the builder. I work for Cullen Construction out of Wayne. They've been around since the 50s, really good company. And we just bought the house, moved in January, my wife and my 2 kids. And we bought the house knowing we would want to do a lot of work to it. The outside-
Maybe you can give us the front elevation while we're talking as well. I mean, the photographs.
Sure. Oh, current.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
That's the front of the house. Facing east. Back of the house. Here's a single story. I think it was probably a screened-in porch originally that was closed in. Not done very well either. That's pretty shoddy, the construction of it, so. And I couldn't get too close to the north side of the house. It's, kind of too close to the neighbor's fence and all, so. We are proposing to move the driveway due to it's really narrow going through there with the fence. So just to, we plan on being there for decades to come. So we just kind of want to do one big project and get this all over with all at once and be able to enjoy it, for the time we'll be there. So.
You're a lucky man.
Thank you. Yeah, we are.
You can pull that off.
Yeah, we are. The street is unbelievable. Gorgeous homes. I can show you what's around us. That is a beautiful Victorian next to us. Here's another colonial style home to the left, and here's another Victorian across the street. So I can't see the pictures too well, but it is a lot of Victorians and definitely historic homes on the street. So our house is in disrepair. The roof shot, the siding shot, all the windows are, I don't know what era, but they're all pretty bad as well. So the house needs a lot of work, and we plan to do that, plus, hopefully the additional space as well. So
maybe you can walk us through the site plan and show
Sure.
us what's existing and what's proposed, and that would be helpful as well. Thank you.
It's hard to see up there on the screen, but if you have it in front of you, use this pointer. Existing now is the one-story side porch, enclosed, the two-story dwelling. There's a pretty shabby wooden deck off the back, and a driveway that's in pretty much disrepair right now. My neighbor's fence, like it shows here, is about 8 feet from the house. Beautiful fence, and it's just, if we can, we'd like to change that and swing the driveway to the other side of the house. So the plan is to keep the footprint of the house, not expand too much as far as the actual two-story dwelling. We're going to hopefully expand up on that one-story porch, add the one-story mudroom and the garage, because right now there's no garage and there's shed, nothing. So there's no storage or anything. So this will all get torn up, the old driveway, turn that to sod. It'll look from the street much better, as opposed to the two driveways kind of right on top of each other, especially on that street. It's unsightly. So.
All right, do you have a front elevation that's
Sure.
proposed we can go through? Thank you.
Here's the front. This is the front elevation facing east. As far as the existing structure, side by side, the only thing additional, it's all going to get redone, new, but this dormer would be new, and the second floor with the hip roof would be new. Aside from that, it stays, siding, it's all going to look the same when we put it back, just new.
Is that a shingle siding?
This is Currently, it's cedar in pretty bad shape. We're going to go back with, we were thinking of a cement siding painted. It'll look the same. You wouldn't really be able to tell. It's not correct. Yeah, same reveal and all. Yes.
And then is there a rear elevation? as
Yes.
well that we can.
So currently,
Excuse me, Jim, can you push that up so that fills the screen?
Oh,
You can't see the bottom.
sure.
There you go.
So this is how that back of the house looks now. And over here, this is the second floor addition that really only bumps back about 10 feet, as you can see here. That would be master suite area, and below would be a new kitchen. So, and the idea there is to take advantage of that facing south, getting as much sun as possible into those areas.
Does it appear, it appears the bump out is lower from the roof line than the the existing roof line, is that right? A little bit lower?
Correct.
Okay.
Everything's lower, and we tried to keep the mudroom and garage, as low as we could
Right.
because it will throw a little bit of shade onto the neighbor's property, but, hopefully not too much.
Well, this is a kind of a typical, well, it's a grown-up colonial with the,
Yeah.
The front entry and the pent.
Right.
And, 99% of them had those side porches that were glass or screened or open or whatever
Right.
they were, and then they changed over time.
Right.
I think the importance of keeping a side porch like that is not really, paramount in my mind in terms of how the fabric of this.
Design, right.
What you've done in adding the second floor is minimized its impact with the roof line and hipping it around and turning it into a gable in the back.
Right.
The ridge of the main gable being substantially lower than the ridge of the addition gable
Existing.
being substantially lower than the main.
Right.
So you're maintaining that hierarchy,
Right.
which we all like to see.
Sure.
The front dormers, combination of shed, gable,
Yes.
is a fairly typical detail that you see. So it's not uncommon in this kind of a house.
Right.
It gives you much more usable space.
On the third floor.
On the third
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
And also adds it's a fairly large roof line, and it adds a certain interest to that
It does.
facade as well.
Correct.
So I think that's a positive. And it's also a metal roof, which would
Yeah,
be
nice standing seam.
a nice feature.
Right.
The rest of everything really can't be seen from the street, and
Right.
it's for your use and enjoyment. But I like the fact that you're keeping everything low and you're mindful of your neighbor.
Yeah.
In terms of a footprint, I don't think anything's out of the ordinary. In the 30s, a lot of times you had separate garages that weren't connected.
Right.
That's not the way people like things today. So,
Right.
but you've still got the garage footprint is a two-door. It's not a 7-bay garage.
Right.
Which everybody seems to love
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
So I think that is in keeping.
Yes.
And the small connectors, utility. So, and I think you're reusing all the materials. If you look in our inventory, you've got, I think it's 219 Lansdowne, 222 Lansdowne. You're missed.
Yeah.
You're not even in the inventory. But not to say that you're not worth anything.
No. I couldn't find any record at the township for my home when I was going through this process, unfortunately.
And it's pretty typical when you get into the 20s and the 30s. They
Yeah.
tend to not show up sometimes.
Right.
But what you have. There's some good bones there.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're doing is going to enhance this house. And I think you've got some pretty amazing neighbors that you are trying
Fantastic.
to kind of
Yeah.
grow with.
Yeah, the
And
neighborhoods.
I think you're not overpowering them
Right.
either, because they're
Right.
they're in general much taller
They
all the
are.
way around.
Yeah, they're bigger.
So so you've sort of taken that one-story piece and added to it, but not in a grand way.
Right.
And then as you come around, it's smaller than everything else, and
Right.
I think the scale is appropriate. And I think that fits the guidelines, not only from the street face,
Right.
but also the techniques that you're using.
I agree. I feel like the massing, you've kind of merged both new improvements with keeping the overall character very well.
Yes, thank you. Both my neighbors, I spoke to them before I brought the plans to them and said, are you okay with what we're
that's
doing here?
good.
And they're both obviously they're great. My neighbors are great, and they're happy that we're obviously fixing the place up,
Exactly.
So they both approved of everything we're doing.
Well, good. I don't have any other questions. You guys have any?
I think so.
You were frowning. I don't know. You sure?
The flipping of the driveways, I was just trying to
Yeah.
work that out in my mind, but I absolutely see why you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
Did you make a motion then?
I would, I'd like to recommend approval of a certificate of appropriateness for 220 Lansdowne Ave with the project we've discussed.
As per
Right.
plan. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Is this your first stop, or have you been on a few other stops?
Home-wise?
No, in terms of Township.
Oh, I've been, speaking with people, but I've not submitted for permits or anything yet,
Okay,
but I plan to do so soon.
okay. Yeah, was there any public comment about that? Sorry. There's a section in here for public comment anyhow at the end. You're done, though.
Great. Thank you.
Do we have any new business or old business?
I have two new businesses.
Okay.
Two pieces of new business.
Okay.
One is that I attended a consulting party meeting for the Amtrak transmission line upgrade of the Paoli, Zoo to Paoli line. So it's basically the line that touches the edge of North Wing, and it's parallel to 30th.
Is it R5?
I guess it's the R5.
Okay.
I kind of was confused, but I think it is.
Okay.
And the catenaries, which are the posts that contain all the transmission lines, I guess, that go to the substation in Bryn Mawr, or at least that's the closest one, is what's going to be replaced, upgraded, and so all of the resources in the area of potential effect, which is the linear, basically the linear path this line is taking, is considered, looked at, the resources looked at to, the question being answered is, will anything historic, meaning National Register historic, be affected? The state PHMC decided that the catenaries themselves and the substation are historically significant. They're being removed, so how can we kind of compensate for that, I think part of it is that it's going to be recorded and put in a museum in Strasbourg. There's a transportation museum, and so that it also came down to another mitigation factor would be have the Lower Marion Harb and the Radnor Harb kind of have a say in some of the design details that are going to be happening, like color of poles, maybe some interpretive signage about the main line itself, at some of the kiosks at the stations, and some good ideas, I think, to kind of compensate for what they're doing. I don't know anything about when this meeting is going to happen, but I will keep everyone posted, and we'll see who wants to attend.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those poles are original.
Exactly, and I guess
There's some pretty cool detail on I mean, if you're a train buff. But
Exactly.
I think they're
And-
pretty amazing.
and they
that whole
are.
age of metal and iron and all that is.
Right, so
they cared about what was going on. so.
Exactly. So I think they're going to be either a piece of one is going to be brought to the museum, or they're going to be taken very good photographs and plans. And the substation rebuilding might include some of the old material. That was one of the suggestions too. So
Well, definitely keep us posted.
yeah, and any or all of us can attend this joint meeting that is more of a not a voting type of meeting, I think, but advisory. So that's one thing. I think it's September, so it isn't really
Okay.
soon. The second piece of business is that in a pretty recent Board of Commissioners meeting, I want to say the last or 2 times ago, a group of people interested in preserving resources in the community, kind of an ad hoc committee, presented to the Board of Commissioners, because one of the commissioners suggested they do this, a proposal to do an historic overlay ordinance for the scattered sites, or for many of the scattered sites in Radnor that are not being protected right now. And they did a really lovely presentation about some of the places we've lost over the past 5 years and which ones might be a good grouping to start with, and they were all already approved in the Radnor Historic Resource Survey that has been done in a few different years. So it wasn't like they pulled them out of a hat. They had already been a kind of a township-wide objective set of resources. So that's being worked on, and another suggestion they recommended was that the downtown central business district, which has recently become a National Register district, perhaps become considered as another HARB district. So I think,
number 4.
yeah, so it's two
Right.
different pieces they were talking about. They wouldn't be in one legislative body, but they're relatable. And so I thought it was important for us all to kind of hear about that. Maybe we meet with that group at some point to discuss what do we think about all of this.
Which group is that?
It's really an ad hoc group. A few of the people are on the board of the Radnor Historical Society, but just kind of coincidental, and a few other people who've come forward at the meetings and talked about where buildings were being affected or lost. So it's really, anyone can join. It's not really an official group, but I think it's almost like a quasi acting as an historic commission, which we don't have.
And so the end result would be to somehow introduce that to the Board of Commissioners and say, here's a new district that we'd like to recommend, and here are individual sites that we'd like to recommend, and start the process?
Yeah, I
that
think
the
they're
idea?
two separate processes, obviously, but I think exactly what you said is true, and I think a very good point that was made was there was a little map that was shown of all of the communities surrounding Radnor, and except for one, they all have an historic overlay ordinance protecting scattered sites. We're the only one. And I think another fact they talked about was, given the HARB districts we have now, something like 600 resources are being protected. The overlay ordinance for the scattered sites would be something like another 120. So we're not adding that many more in the sense of how many are all already being protected. So I mean, it was a very good discussion, very good. I thought the presentation went really well, and I think we just love to continue talking, but obviously I wanted the HARB to hear about this and be involved.
And how does somebody get involved, and what's the next meeting, and how does that work?
That's a good point. I think the staff is going to review and talk about it and get back to this group, and I'm hoping they'll either automatically get back to the HARB, or since I'm kind of in this group, I'll get back to the HARB and let everybody know.
It's great.
But yeah, it's a good
We've been talking
good
about
move.
that for a long time, and
Yeah.
at some point, there should be, and I guess it happens at the commissioner level, there's a proposal out there and they have to vote on it, and I guess the public gets a chance to really talk about it then. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to kind of, get that process started. But, I think when the HARB was first introduced, there were some things that happened that created that interest. And yet there was the other side that was pushing to say, we really don't want another regulatory body, and, don't tell me what to do with my house again.
Right.
There was that going on. And so we went out with kind of a loose ordinance that allowed us a little leeway and not a whole lot of teeth, just to placate that.
Exactly.
And now I think people understand what we're about and what we're trying to do. And, I don't want to tell people what color house they should have or any of that stuff.
No.
I don't think we're going to go that far any time that I'm going to be around. But there are some things I think that we've helped do.
I think so too.
So I think that's I think that being said, I think that the community would be in favor of hearing that, whether they would say yes to individual sites, because I think there's some, maybe some personal issues that might come up with that. Downtown district, what does that do to the guy who owns, Toby's Shoes or whatever? the little guy, like, how does that
Right,
help?
how
You know,
does
so
it
there's a lot of
affect?
discussion, I think.
I think
It's
so,
important
too.
to preserve it, because that's why the downtown is thriving.
Exactly.
But, you know, there's also that other side. Like, what does that do to the small guy?
Exactly. I think it should be a very good balance again, because I do think there's other precedents
Mm-hmm.
of commercial districts being a local district, and I think if anything, it gives more attention to the district, and everyone's happier that everyone's looking good. You know, they're all
Mm-hmm.
keeping up a nice appearance, and I think there are more grants out there also for things like that, for Main Street type of facade improvements, so
Right.
I'm thinking it's a plus.
All right, good. Well, definitely keep us posted. And is
Yes.
that something that we're going to be the, kind of the placeholder for, or is that something that the public can find out through?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to kind of wait and see what's
Okay.
come back, but I would definitely think we will keep tabs to let people know as well.
All right, well, thanks for the heads up, because that's all stuff that we've been talking about for a while. All right, does anybody have anything else, new or old or indifferent? No? Okay. I think we're going to close the meeting out tonight. Thank you all for coming, and we're closed.